Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Growth Mindset channel. So if you've been following this channel over time, you probably know that I do invest in real estate. And I actually own a couple single family homes myself right now. And I'm at this point where I'm actually transitioning into investing in an apartment complex. And we're gonna go over the reasons why I'm looking at apartment complexes right now, especially over single family homes. So in my experience in the past year, 2 years, I've seen that the single family market has driven up in costs extremely high. And I've spent over a year analyzing many deals. I'm talking hundreds of deals all the time. And I just haven't found anything that really makes the numbers work where I'm willing to take the risk and use my own money to go buy an investment property, single family home. So I've been networking in my community as well and trying to get a feel of who's buying, who's not buying, and what's the reason for people not buying. And more often than not, people are telling me, and I'm hearing, that people are not buying because the numbers just don't make sense. And I thought that was the same reason that I was seeing when I was analyzing deals. I was seeing that it's barely marginally good, and I'm just not thinking that's worth the risk. So essentially, I've been saving up for quite a while now with all this extra cash, and it's opened up a new opportunity for me. In fact, I'm actually investing in an apartment complex and using a significant amount of money to do so. And one of the biggest perks that I see being an apartment investor, especially if you're a passive investor, is that someone else is doing the deal finding for you. So I don't have to go spend many hours learning how to invest in apartment complexes and then doing the contract negotiation with the actual owner of that building, or if it's a company that owns the entire complex. So as a passive investor, I'm able to put money into the deal with minimal amount of work. All I have to do is review a couple contracts stating what the returns are, what the risks are, and I get to do the analysis myself with what's already provided. So I'm not going outside trying to look at apartments, walking through them, and making that happen. I can spend time in my house doing all that analysis up front. And so what's also unique about an apartment complex deal is that the ability to scale. I'm seeing this deal specifically that I'm doing, that the return on investment is going to be rather significant. And I could get this on a single family home, but I'm spending much time doing analysis and trying to see if it's truly going to be a good deal. And I'm already getting this essentially spoon-fed to me, and it's multiplied out across, you could say, even hundreds of homes in this specific deal. So I actually don't have to look at hundreds of homes to get the same, or if not better, return on investment on apartment complex deals. So that's probably some of the biggest factors that are pushing me towards doing an apartment complex deal. In addition, I'm working with a team, so we're all working together versus doing a single family deal where it's really you and maybe a partner doing a deal together, but everyone out there is also competing with you. So you have a lot more competitors in the field because it's much easier to access single family homes than it is apartment complexes. With an apartment complex, you typically have to have a lot of money to go into those type of deals. So you're dealing with people that have a lot of cash or they have a lot of experience doing apartment complex syndications and purchasing. And so bringing that team together, especially if you haven't done it already, is going to be extremely hard, and it's going to make people not even want to get involved with it because it seems like that's like the 100-mile goal, the 100-year goal, and you're trying to just get started and focusing on these smaller deals like owning a lot of single family homes. And that may make make a little bit of sense. You're actually, as an investor, you probably think, oh, I have to go into single family homes, get a lot of it, get a lot of experience, get a lot of money, and then transition into apartment complexes. But I think you can actually skip that learning phase of single family homes and going straight to apartment syndications if you have the right team. So how do you get involved and how do you get to know people that do apartment syndications? Because I'm not actually doing all that legwork myself. I'm actually going to meetups, and I met a core team that is very solid that have done apartment complexes recently, and they have a lot of experience. So they provided me a lot of value by finding the deal, networking, and then allowing me to go into this contract investment to help purchase this apartment complex, which is incredibly awesome, as each investor will own part of the equity in the actual deal, and then go ahead and get Schedule K1s, which essentially is a tax form that allows you to write off depreciation across this entire complex for every single investor involved. So it's incredibly awesome. We'll be going into more details in this video. We created part 1 and part 2 of this series to actually go about how you might want to learn more about apartment complexes. Part 1, if I recall correctly, is about basically the overall structure of apartment syndication and what those steps are involved. And then part 2 is, okay, bring it down to investor level. How does that actually happen and what does that look like? And then you actually get to experience the benefits. So again, guys, I'll be documenting this process even beyond these series, as apartment complex strategies are typically a 5-year hold roughly, and then you'll sell it off and then do a 1031 exchange, which essentially means you're delaying the amount of taxes that you're paying into enrolling that into the next property. So if you kept doing a 1031 exchange, you could theoretically never have to pay those capital gains tax from your investment strategies if you do that every single time. All right, guys, well, I hope you're super excited about this video. I'm super excited about closing on this deal and really just benefiting from apartment complex deals. And hopefully in a couple of years, I'll be financially retired. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching the Growth Mindset channel. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything specific you want to see. I'll certainly be doing more apartment deals down the road, and I'll always keep you guys in the loop. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Michael, and welcome back to the Growth Mindset video. I am here with my friends from Boulder Creek Investment, John and James. Welcome to the channel again.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
Hey, Michael. How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good. We like these late night sessions.
They are a lot of fun, and I look forward to it every single week, if that's when we do them.
Never sleep.
So today, as we discussed, we're going to actually be talking about a syndication process, and we're going to break it up into 2 distinct videos for you guys, so it's very clear and easy to obtain that information. The first part of the video is going to be about the high overview of what a syndication process is, and then the second video that we'll post right after that is how to actually get involved if that's something that you may be interested in. So going off with that, after the first part of how a syndication process actually happens, can you guys take it away and kind of go over that overview of what it all involves?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. What we'll do here is we'll break it out in less than 10 steps of a high overview of the syndication process. And then, yeah, we'll go into the process for someone who may want to get involved. So generally, syndication process obviously is a lot of work. That's why we have multiple team members and also passive partners into the deals, because it takes a lot of people to get it done. It's not a traditional real estate investment where you just work with one bank and you work with yourself, maybe a partner, and try to get it done. It's definitely a lot more involved, but in our minds, definitely more of a payoff in the long run. So I guess I'll go through some steps and then James can hit some more, and then we'll go back and forth. The first step, I would say, how we generally find these deals is we underwrite multiple apartment communities, and we'll be getting in offerings from brokers all around the country. We have one in Oklahoma City right now. We're in contract with, and we'll be closing at the end of March. We've closed on one in the Kansas City suburb of Lee Summit already. But before we even got to that, we've underwritten hundreds of deals, so spent hundreds and probably say thousands of hours at this point, try to find the right deal for investors, because if it doesn't work for investors, first and foremost, then it's not going to work for us. After we underwrite a plethora of deals, we usually, and we get lucky enough, we'll be able to negotiate the deal and get it under contract. And at this point, we have so many weeks to even usually a month to go through due diligence. And that's from everything from inspections to their financials, digging up all that we need to evaluate the property and make sure it's a good deal, because we only have so much information, like the trailing 12 at the beginning of the process, that we'll need more of like utilities and service contracts and even prior trailing 12 to really evaluate the property. And then from there, if it's good to go, we'll definitely get out of the due diligence phase and then go into the actual contract. Um, Let me step back for a second, though, too. Usually with the deal negotiation, you need to come in first with a letter of intent, and some brokers will accept that, and some will just want to go with contract. So it really depends on how the seller wants to get into the deal. And then while we're doing all this and adding on to all the stress, we obviously have to raise all these funds, and it could be several millions of dollars, and getting all the investors on board with our underwriting and our business strategy. So it's a sprint during the first few months, to say the least. James, yeah, you want to add on to anything like that and continue on the other ones?
Yeah, man. John, I think like you said, like you gave a good overview. I think for someone that's comparing it to, real estate investing, if I can, that many of us are familiar with. A lot of folks I know flip houses or do the BRRRR method of, buying and rehabbing and renovating, doing a refinance after they rent it out. It's like that, but kind of just at the next level. So you may need to look at 5 or 10 houses to find the right house. When you're syndicating, may need to look at 50 or 100 properties to find the right one. So it's just kind of like many similar steps, but just kind of elevated or more complicated as you're going. So it's on the one hand easy to relate to, on the other hand a little bit more challenging. So kind of taking over from where John left off, we were raising funds. We're kind of pushing forward through the due diligence period. We close on a property, and then what's next? A number of things kind of concurrently happen from there. So first one is cost segregation. So a lot of real estate investors know that one of the great things about real estate investing is depreciation and the tax benefits that you get through real estate. Michael, I know you're a real estate investor, so I'm sure you've talked about that on your channel here. But with larger scale real estate, you can kind of, again, just push that to the next level. So cost segregation is the process of going through and doing a brief study on the property so that you can depreciate it faster, basically, so you pay less taxes over the span of your holding that asset. Next up, like other real estate investing, you got to add your value. You need to reposition that asset. So comparing to a single family home, you go in there, you rehab it, you put in a new tenant. So that's what we're doing. It's just that we're doing that on, 20, 30, 50, 100 units. So we kind of plan out that process and manage that for our limited investors, so that we've got a vacancy factor of maybe 5 or 10 units per month. We work with the contractors to be sure that those are turning, as planned, on budget, those types of things, so we can really execute that business plan and start to reposition that asset. And then once we get through that phase, and maybe that's a 6-month phase, and maybe that's 18 or 24 months, kind of depending on the underwriting, your risk appetite, and all that jazz, that's when we kind of start to talk about refinancing the asset. So just like a single family house, you reposition it, you get a new tenant in there, you refinance it, and you try and pull out, ideally, all of your money. We do the same thing with a syndication. So we rehab it, we get in new tenants, we kind of change the profile of the asset so that it's making more money, and then we go back in and we do a refinance. We get out of the bridge loan, and oftentimes we're able to return 50, 75, maybe even 100% of the investor's capital, and then we kind of go forward and cash flow from there. So, John, you want to take it back?
Yeah. So after all that work,
and you just kick them back on the beach.
We're definitely going to want to cash flow for a few years, because generally after refi, you're not going to sell instantly after that. So you're going to cash flow for a few years, and maybe even during this time, find another potential property. You dump that refi money in, so you're always having it work for you instead of just having it sit in the bank. And then we will get into a sale, usually around year 5, depends on the market. We don't want to sell too soon or too late. It just depends on the economy at that time. And then we'll take that other half of the funds and go ahead and either 1031 of those, or, obviously people can take those as a distribution. So you could see the process that we talked about is overly simplified, because there's definitely a lot more that goes into it. But this is a good overview to tell new investors who are newer to the syndication model, since everybody right now is either taking part in a burst strategy or doing a long-term hold on a rental. So it's a little bit of mixture of both, but the biggest thing with syndications are we try to value add and force appreciate them. So we're taking that refi money out within a couple years and another large chunk within the 5. We're not ever staying in them, I would say at latest, the length of the loan, which could be potentially 10 years. Unlike other people who may want to stay in with them to the 30-year loan period for residential multifamily. So that's how we get those larger returns. We force value add them, and that's our syndication process.
Yeah, and one thing, if I may add, John, too, is you talk about the forcing the value add and the refi strategy and everything like that. The thing that I really like about these is that with a single family home, and I think we've all flipped those or done the Burr method with those, you're really kind of limited based on what the neighbors and what the neighborhood is selling for. If the neighborhood is all selling for $100,000 per house, like your house is not worth 150, no matter what you do to it, no matter what it rents for, like it's just not worth 150. Versus an apartment building is really, the valuation is based on the income. So like if you can get a high performing apartment building, you can really push that valuation kind of past what your neighbors are doing, not based on what they're selling for, but based on what your apartment building is doing financially on an NOI basis. So kind of an exciting piece there.
Oh, that's a good point.
All right, awesome, guys. So that was the high-level overview of how to actually do a syndication process. If there's anything that you have more questions about, feel free to leave a comment below, and we'll gladly give you guys more feedback on that. So that was part 1 of 2 of this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video, part 2 of 2, which we will be talking about the process for passive investors. See you on the next one. See you guys.
See ya.